About a year ago, my mom and I were driving around. We were approaching a red light, and the car in front of us started slowing down, totally normal. This car had actually been in front of us for about 10 minutes. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary until the light turned green and the car didn't move. We waited a few seconds, and my mom decided to honk. No response from the driver. We couldn't see the back of their head, so we figured they had dropped something. The light turned red again, and at this point, my mom honked again out of annoyance. It probably wasn't the best idea, but what can you do? A pedestrian starts walking across and had seen the whole thing, so he decided to knock on the car window to make sure the person inside is okay. My mom and I watch as he gets no response, looks in the car, and then looks at us with a confused expression. He starts shaking his head and moves to look in through the other windows of the car, before looking at us and shaking his head again. I lowered down my window and asked if the person in the car is okay, and he responded, "There's no one in the car." A few months ago, me and my dad went out at midnight to a secluded spot out in the middle of nowhere near some water tower or something. We were there to watch a meteor shower that was going on. There were no lights at all except for the stars and moon. The shower was spectacular, but something felt off. Every now and then, out of the corner of my eye, I would detect something flicker in or out of my vision. For a good while, I just shrugged it off. If I ever glanced over, I wouldn't see anything really, just a dark horizon with the silhouettes of distant trees past the tower. Then, I finally saw it. While glancing over at the tower, I distinctly witnessed it. Something just disappeared on the horizon. I stared a moment longer in confusion, and then it reappeared. It was a tree, only it couldn't be. "What is that?" I began to feel uneasy. My dad was confused. He asked me what I meant. I didn't reply. I was too fixated on the object as it vanished once more, only to reappear not quite where it was before. Panic began to take me as I realized it definitely wasn't a tree. What the hell is that? It wasn't a tree. It was a person, and it was on the tower. I began to walk backwards out of fear. I could sense danger from this entity. I finally responded to my dad, pointing in the direction of the anomaly, but he just couldn't see it. His night vision is nowhere near as good as mine. It vanished again, but this time, when it came back, it wasn't on the tower. It was on the ground. I urged my dad that we have to go now. This wasn't right at all. Fortunately, he agreed to go, and we set off down the path to the car. Shortly after, we were out of sight of the tower. Terror then struck at full force. It reappeared, now well away from the tower, and closer yet. It was following us. We were only feet from the car. I scrambled in, and we were on our way. Even in the safety of the car, I felt paranoid, constantly scanning the surroundings. Even though I saw nothing, I just felt afraid it was still there. It was about a week before I got a good night's sleep again. Let me start by saying that my kid is completely normal. Loud and energetic and playful. Not quiet or to herself. But she has had her fair share of creepy moments, as I'm sure all kids do. But one incident stands out most of all. She was about 4 years old when her, my boyfriend, and I were driving down a dirt road outside the town we live in. There are 2 random graveyards off this road. Not overly old or creepy though. We never paid much mind to them. However, this time, she was looking out the truck window and pointed toward the graveyard and said, "Look at the kids." My boyfriend and I glanced at each other in the front seat, looked toward the graveyard, and no one was there. There was never anyone there, as it's basically in the middle of nowhere. We swung the truck around and parked outside the fence, so we had a good view of where she had pointed. We asked her, "Do you still see the kids?" She said yes. We asked her, "How many kids are there?" She said 3. We asked, "Are they happy or are they sad?" She said sad. I started to tear up. I didn't feel scared, just heartbroken, and maybe a little creeped out. She hasn't spoken about the kids in the graveyard since. When I was 19, I had a 1-bedroom apartment in New York with a roommate. I had the bedroom, she had the living room, and there was a long narrow hall between the 2 rooms. A few months after we moved in, this woman upstairs, who was 26 and very dramatic, started asking to borrow our phone. She had just moved to the city and didn't know anyone, had no money, etc. She was very fixated on me, and she made my skin crawl. But I felt sorry for her because she was clearly struggling with some mental problems. Anyhow, one night, I wake up and hear shuffling. I get up and see over a dozen people shuffling up and down my hallway. And they're all emaciated and silent and staring straight ahead in the dark. I scream and turn on the light and they're gone. My roommate tells me I'm crazy. I don't mention to her that I felt like they were Holocaust victims, because it sounds even nuttier. But somehow, I knew that was what happened to them. A few nights later, I wake up to more Holocaust victims standing around my room. Not looking at me, just staring into space. I turn on the light, and they're gone. At this point, I feel pretty fucking haunted, but have no idea why this is happening. Then, the neighbor comes down 2 nights later in a bathrobe. She's clearly distressed, and as we're talking, the bathrobe begins soaking through with blood. She's cut herself with a knife on her stomach, legs, breasts, etc. It's rolling down onto her legs and onto the floor. We call 911, the ambulance and cops come, and they send me up to her apartment to get her some clothes to wear to the hospital. I go up to her apartment where I've never been. All the lights are on, so is the TV and 2 faucets running. And all over the walls are photos of her standing in concentration camps she visited in Europe. Like over 30 black and white pictures of her in these places, and other pictures of Holocaust victims, along with notes she's printed out and taped up, saying, "I should have died." Every wall is covered with Holocaust notes and pictures. I'm now fully freaked out, but I grab her clothes, take them down to her, and go off to the hospital with her, where, thank God, they admit her. On my way back to our building, I see my roommate walking towards me with a terrified face. She says, "You're going to think I'm crazy, but after you guys left, I kept picturing in my mind all these people who died in the Holocaust, like they were in our apartment." Mind you, I had never told her my theory about the people I saw, and I hadn't had time to tell her what I saw in the neighbor's apartment. The neighbor left New York after that, and I thought it was over. But one night, I was in the kitchen pouring water with the lights off, and I saw another one of them standing in my roommate's room. A very emaciated dead woman, just watching me. I froze and she vanished. We ended up subletting for the summer, and both moved out. I was driving in rural PA with my sister and then boyfriend. We're heading towards Hawk Mountain to stargaze. It was late November 2015, 32 degrees, just after midnight. I remember because I looked after it happened. I see something down the road, and I think it's a sign on the side of the road that appears to be in the middle of the road just because the road is a bend. It's a long stretch of back road, no lights, high beams on, and it's still pitch black. So I squint and try to figure what the hell this is in the road. As I get closer, I notice it's a man. It's midnight, in the middle of nowhere, foggy. Something tells me not to stop. He's standing on the yellow line with a red plain shirt, old dirty work jeans, and a lunchbox. He has a hat on and a beard. I remember going, "Nope, nope, nope," and actually flooring the gas pedal. I watch enough movies and shows to know that nothing good comes of picking up a hitchhiker in the middle of nowhere in the middle of the night. The guy yells, "Hey!" as I pass him. I have a dash camera on at all times. It records in 3-minute intervals to make it easier to find the clip you need. So, we go see the stars, still freaked out about this dude, saying he's a murderer, etc. Now, we pulled off into the parking lot of this old abandoned church to stargaze. This road is long, with no turnoffs from the point we see the guy to where we are. No driveways, no houses, no side roads. Nothing but woods on both sides for miles. No cars pass us in either direction. We go back the same way, scared that we'll see the creepy guy again. But all we find left behind is his hat lying in the middle of the road. My boyfriend says maybe he got in someone's car. Me and my sister say this is impossible. There's no turnoffs, no other roads, and no cars past us at all. We get home excited to review our dashcam footage. The 3-minute clip where the guy would be is gone. We watch everything on my camera. The 3 minutes before and after him are just fine. Even the footage of me driving to Philly the weekend before is there. But no creepy guy. Up until this point, we thought he was a drunk guy or a killer or something, but now we're thinking he was some kind of ghost. He just vanished into thin air. And for some reason, the one section where he'd be on my camera is gone. We still have no explanation for this.